So you've been playing some Darktide and you think, hey, I'd like to get into some Warhammer, maybe just the lore, maybe the games, maybe just see what it's all about. This video is meant to help explain all of those things as briefly as possible. There's a lot more to uncover here, obviously, but this is a early, quick explanation of everything that's going on in Darktide and how it relates to the major games that exist. In the 31st millennium, half of the Primarchs, that is the genetically created super soldiers of the Emperor, decided to turn traitor against him. They all had very good reasons, and some of them were just corrupted by Chaos Gods. One of the 4 Chaos Gods is known as Nurgle. He and his followers are the primary antagonists of Darktide. The war against humanity as a whole has continued since the 31st millennium on to present day, the 41st millennium, where humanity is now worshipping the God King as a god and is trying to repel the forces of chaos and all the aliens in existence. Darktide has done a really good job at converting all the different miniatures that are available on Games Workshop's website to models in the game. Everything from the terrain, the levels, as well as the enemies you fight and the characters you can be already exist as models in the games. Speaking of the games, there's 4 major ones that you should be aware of. The Horus Heresy, which takes place obviously in the 31st millennium as the traitor legions fight against the loyalist forces to try and bring down the Emperor. Kill Team, which is probably the closest that you'll get to what we're currently playing in Darktide, where it's small teams of guys trying to fight off another small team of guys. Then there's Necromunda, which is gang wars taking place in the lower parts of the Hive Cities. All of Darktide takes place in Hive Cities, so, basically industrial zones where people live. Lastly, there's the main game called Warhammer 40k, which takes place in the 41st millennium, with large-scale battles and wars. I'm going to be mostly talking about that because that's what I'm mostly comfortable with. In order to get started with any of these games, you'll need to pick up the core rulebook, as well as the codex for whichever faction you happen to be playing, as well as all of the miniatures for that faction. Starting with the Combat Patrol is a good way to start. Alternatively, you can go to Wahapedia, which is a free website that illegally uploads all of the information you need to know how to play this game. If you're interested in starting any of these games, the place to go would probably be your local Games Workshop store if you have one. They generally are available to play a test game so you can kind of just see how it plays. Alternatively, you can go and get Tabletop Sim on Steam for about 20 bucks. It's a fairly heavy program and doesn't work quite well, but it allows you to play any of these games for the small asking price of about 20 bucks. It's usually on sale. If you're interested in playing as the veteran, I would suggest Astra Militarum. If you like the idea of playing as the Zealot, then I would recommend Sisters of Battle. If you want to play as the bad guys, you can either go with generic Chaos Space Marines, Nurgle Demons through the Codex Demons book, or you can go with Death Guard, a faction of Chaos Space Marines that explicitly worships Nurgle. As far as lore and books that you could go and read, I highly recommend the Eisenhorn series. They take place around an Inquisitor who is trying to root out the forces of chaos in Hive Cities, similar to what happens in Darktide. If you want a different book that has a similar sort of flair, I highly recommend the book Bloodlines by Chris Roth. It's a detective story that involves a missing person case that gets really out of control. If you want to learn more about what's happening in the Astra Militarum, that is the Imperial Guard, the people that the veterans are like, I highly recommend not only the Cyphus Cain series, if you want something a little bit more jokey, or if you want something more serious, you could go with the Gaunt's Ghost series. You can get all of these books through Games Workshop's Black Library series. You can also probably pick them up in pretty much any bookstore. Alternatively, you can find a lot of them online. And there's a lot of really good creators on YouTube here that actually do a lot of their own narrative work. Vox and the Void does incredible work, as does the Astartes series. In fact, the Astartes series was so successful that Games Workshop went ahead and just hired them on to do their Warhammer Plus Netflix knockoff. I also recommend the Grimdark Narrator. He pretty much just reads from the Warhammer Wikipedia articles, but he gets the things right, and he can, actually talk about the stuff fairly well. I'd also like to recommend Wyvern Audio on YouTube. He reads mostly the official books and has an amazing voice that's perfect for just getting into the lore. There's also plenty of good channels on YouTube that do battle reports. A battle report is basically just people playing Warhammer and then talking out the rules, their decisions, and that sort of thing. Tabletop Tactics is one of the original ones that are still doing it, that film different games that they play against each other, and they have really good production value. They are not to be confused with Tabletop Titans, a different YouTube channel that does live streams of them playing 40K live, where you can sort of have a conversation with them while they're playing. Hopefully these resources, all linked down in the top pinned comments as well as in the description, help you out on your journey into 40K, on whether or not you even want to play this game, if you want to be interested in it. I glossed over so much stuff. I didn't even talk about Sigmar. I didn't talk about the other gods. I didn't talk about orcs or any of the other Xenos stuff. But this is just meant to get you as a sort of table of contents about what Warhammer is. I've already done a little bit of work on how to pick out your first army, but if you're interested in that, let me know and I'll go ahead and make that video as well. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.